this can be one of the most healing times.
Right.
It's our decision. It can be one of the most frightening times as well. When we meet people, when we're in a situation, we all have that decision to make. Is this going to be a healing relationship, or is it going to be something that I'm going to be afraid of or angry about? Am I going to pull back, or am I going to go ahead and say, no, I really need to learn who this person is?
A Parent Wins, an adventure of a lifetime. A global expedition dedicated to collecting stories of environmental and cultural preservation while conducting marine research aboard sailing vessel Resilience.
It's been every single day working. Every single day working. And not just a little bit, but from the morning, early morning, until late at night. But it's a lot of fun to think about how much we actually have accomplished, because it's been so much this entire time. And now we're in Westcott Bay in the San Juan Islands, and we're ready to take off for Alaska. This is the start. As we go out this bay, this is the start of our journey. And I think it's the last time I'll really say that, hopefully. This is actually the start, you know? There's no more go back to Port Townsend and fix something, or, you know, whatever. We're here. We're doing 8.2 knots, and I'm pretty sure that this is the last of the United States, like right here, and that's Canada. That's the border, I'm pretty sure.
There?
Yeah.
2 flags right over there. So the game plan for Canada was to, for going north, we really just were trying to book it to Alaska. We can't sail at night in the Inside Passage because there's too many logs. So we would wake up early every single morning and sail all day, every day until sunset. And then we'd stop and sleep and then repeat.
And this is a massive whirlpool that we're just kind of skirting the side of. There's just the three of us. It was just Graham and Kira and I. And the idea was, first of all, just operate the boat. We hadn't anchored before really that much. Goal 2 was filming as best we could, but we didn't have another person aboard filming with us. So because of that, our third goal was really just to make connections along the way through Canada. Get up to Alaska in time. We were already kind of pushing the back end of when we wanted to be up there. And on the way through Canada, take note of anchorages, people, ideas, places that we wanted to capture on the way back through. Because that ended up being the idea, is that we wouldn't be doing much filming in Canada until we came back through. Visibility is pretty bad, so I have to sit up here and look for logs. It might be that we just pull over to the side of the road. Barely not perfect.
Lots of harbor porpoises, lots of humpback whales, the occasional Dall's porpoise. We were motoring most of the time because the wind just isn't all that great. So at the end of the day, we'd get to an anchorage and we'd start the generator and drop the anchor. If there was a little bit of daylight left, we might explore around the anchorage. There were a couple of really beautiful bays that we went to that we explored, or built a little campfire. There were some forests that we went into that were like beautiful, like big old growth forests where it looked like dinosaurs should be roaming. It was just incredible.
And it was pretty cool coming into Port Alexander, for example. That was one of our favorites, where we felt out there. We were able to go ashore and have a fire on the beach, and it was just sort of, for me, that was probably the biggest moment, that anchorage, of feeling like we're out there doing it finally. We're finally back.
There was a lot of rain, there was a lot of overcast clouds, but when we did get to anchor somewhere in a bay, and then when we did get to go to shore, it was just this incredible rainforest, and beautiful moss. I saw a lot of mushrooms. I started collecting mushrooms and just,
Nice. You can see the bubbly wash behind me.
and hopefully get a look at it on the other side. So here we go. This is just the low tide.
Yeah. I woke up this morning and Kira said, Trev, be reckless. See how far you can bring that dinghy. How do we turn around safely?
I don't know. Should we just drift?
Could, but then we wouldn't have any control and I'd worry about going up on the sides.
Showering on the SV Resilience. That water pressure looks great.
So yeah, we finally got to Ketchikan, which was, big arrival into the United States again from Canada. And we were in Alaska and we were finally, I guess, around a lot of fishermen and, on the docks. We didn't spend that much time in town. We got the supplies we needed, got our groceries, but we weren't really drawn to town. But on the docks there, being surrounded by all these fishing boats, I really, and still didn't have the chance, but I really wanted to talk to fishermen and get an idea of how they felt about a lot of things that we're filming, because we didn't want to be one-sided and still don't want to be one-sided. We want to get all perspectives we can. And I had the chance to talk to a couple of individuals. One guy I talked to a bit about conservation, about fishing and how he felt about it. This is this guy's entire life, and he was saying that he wants his children and his children's children to be able to make the livelihood that he's made on the water. And so he took really seriously, and I felt very strongly about regulation and about enforcing the laws that people are trying to enforce. So he was really aggravated, talking about how some fishermen don't follow those rules and don't follow those laws or try to get around them. I got a sense that, and a little bit of hope that, the fishing in and of itself isn't bad, but it's the regulation and the implementation of regulation that sort of struggles. My question was, what's it going to be the balance between people trying to preserve the land and the water and the environment in that area, and also the people making their livelihoods? And that, I think, ended up being a large part of Alaska, and a large part of the story, is that you have this wilderness, you have incredible wilderness, you have incredible natural resources, you have people making a livelihood off those natural resources in a responsible way, and you have people collecting and having sustenance for themselves off those resources, but then you also have the other industries and people taking advantage of those resources. And it's wild to see how healthy and pristine and beautiful the land is there, but then also how challenged it is and how sort of threatened it is. And all the stakeholders in that is really a big part of it all. So Ketchikan was the introduction into that, into this big fishing fleet and the big companies and also the cruise ships and all of these things that do also happen in Alaska. We're in Ketchikan. We've been here for 3 days and we're off. We've got about 4 days to Sitka. We spent the last few days here fixing up things, and now we're ready to go.
There's Ketchikan marked there with that anchor. And we're headed to Sitka, which is all the way up here.
Graham or Kira would ask, so where are we anchoring today? I don't know, somewhere around here. I think we can make it this far. But we discovered, for ourselves at least, a lot of cool places.
It not necessarily the same routine every day. I mean, it changes a lot, and your environment's constantly changing, and I really like that. I thrive on a little bit of chaos, and I like adapting to those changes and just always being ready for the next thing.
Coming to Canada and working our way up, each step we got further and closer to Sitka, which was sort of our ultimate goal, the more that felt like, okay, we are doing this. And by the time we made it to Sitka, it's like reaching the top of the mountain and saying, boom, we were in Sitka. And we tied up to the dock, and that was huge. That was huge.
We're about to take off from Resilience and go see our friend Louise Brady, who started the Herring Protectors. We met her last year, and she became a really good friend, and we're really excited to meet with her again and hear some stories and learn more about what she's doing and what's happened since last time we saw her, and enjoy a hike.
Louise Brady is a Tlingit elder that we met on our way through last year on J. Henry, on the trip that we did before Resilience last summer. And she is the founder and leader of an organization called the Herring Protectors. And so last year we had a chance to meet with her and interview her about the work of Herring Protectors, which really they're dedicated to what it sounds like, protecting the herring in, especially off Barnoff Island in Sitka, but really, you know, all through the Pacific Northwest, they really care about the herring. The significance is both environmental, but also very cultural. Herring eggs and the herring spawn is a huge part of her culture and of Tlingit culture, and of even down in Klimtu and other, you know, native groups throughout the area.
Herring are these beautiful silver fish, and they're a forage fish, right? So the whales, the salmon, pretty much everyone in the ecosystem benefits from having a healthy herring stock. Sadly though, the state of Alaska has decided to not call herring a forage fish, and there's certain protections that forage fish have, but since they won't declare herring forage fish, they're not protected in that way. So all the different species of birds and mammals come together for the herring. We as human beings came together here in Sitka. All of these islands here were just full of people who were camping here to harvest herring eggs.
By protecting herring, you're protecting everything else. You're protecting the whole ecosystem. I mean, people forget how connected the ecosystem is. You can't just destroy an entire population of one species and not expect it to have repercussions on other species.
The herring are being fished by really large fisheries and overfishing them, and really just taking the sac roe that gets shipped off and shipped out as a delicacy sort of all over the world. And then the rest of the fish just gets ground up into like dog food and cat food, apparently mostly, and maybe some supplements. But the point is they're really taking this fish that's critical and a huge part of the culture, but critical for the environment, taking all the eggs, taking them out before they even have a chance to spawn, and then that's it. It's a pretty rough fishery.
And so it's really important to protect the herring, because Sitka is probably one of the most abundant places on Earth. And I can see why my ancestors came here because it is, like every year it starts with, you know, the herring and the herring eggs, and then you get, you know, the halibut come in, and then you get the salmon berries, the blueberries, the huckleberries, the Dungeness crabs, the clams, the cockles, the king salmon, the sockeye, the cohos. This probably was one of the best places in the world to have a food economy, right? Because everything is so abundant here. And every year I just am in awe that I get to live here and be here and get to share. People share with me and we share with each other the abundance of this place that is here because of the herring. I think that, you know, just as we have forgotten how to relate to herring as sacred, we've also forgotten how to relate to each other as sacred. And I think that, you know, again in the Western world, we're taught to think of, you know, of things, people, you know, the plants belong over here, and, you know, the fish belong over here, and the mammals belong over here, and the humans belong over here, when we're not. We're all a part of the ecosystem, and we are all created as sacred beings. And when I remember that I know how I am to treat you, right? Is that with respect and dignity.
Right.
What I really took away from her is that she found one thing she's passionate about, and she is like all in on one thing. And I think if everybody found that one thing that they're passionate about and just put all their energy towards that, I mean, one by one, it would make this world just a little bit better, and all these bigger problems might not seem so overwhelming.
So we're working on getting some land transferred to us, which is like really prime in the middle of herring egg harvest areas. And on the cultural level, we just had also land returned to our clan, which has not been in our hands since at least, you know, half a century.
So good to hear.
Right? Yeah. And so we're hoping to, you know, raise funds to basically help harvesters who are struggling right now given the cost of fuel and, you know, living in a Western world where you only have so many days off to go out and harvest, and, you know, helping people get the tools that they need and the resources that they need to continue this way of life in a good way. We're hoping to encourage harvesters to take on, to be mentors for young people. I'm hoping to meet with some folks who have some really great ideas that, you know, like we can help them to get a new outboard motor if they need one. Right. And then in return, they agree that, you know, they probably won't have that money. If they had the money, they would have bought it themselves, right? But you know what, if you mentor a young person for 5 years and you give us some of your harvest to redistribute to people in need and to elders after 5 years, that's considered good, you know. It requires thinking outside of the box, and it requires hope and trust in people.
Meeting with Louise was sort of it's a big deal. It was a homecoming. It was coming to a friend for advice. It was, you know, it was really valuable. It was incredibly valuable. One of my favorite things, though, that I agree with her on and that she was so excited about was that we were talking about the state of the world, and you could look at it and say that things are crazy and falling apart, and, you know, what's going on. You know, it's sort of a scary time for a lot of folks. And she said, I don't see it that way. And she instead sees the state of the world and how the, you know, things going on as an incredibly exciting time. And that she's not worried, she's not scared, she's excited. And she's hopeful, and she's energized, and she sees all these changes going on and all this communication. And, you know, I think part of it was us even being there and talking to her and collecting the story. And I think that was a really big part. Like for me, going to Sitka, that could be it right there. totally worth the trip, totally worth everything, is to have that reinforcement of there is hope, this is an incredible time, and let's get to work, you know? So that was a culmination for me. If you want to learn more about the herring protectors, you can visit their website, herringprotectors.org. This holiday season, we'd really appreciate it if you consider supporting Apparent Winds. Apparent Winds is a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to sharing stories like these, as well as collecting oceanographic data, providing an affordable platform for marine research, and providing STEM youth education tools for use by teachers and students in the classroom. Please consider helping to fulfill our mission by donating this year. Learn more about how to support our work by visiting apparentwinds.org and clicking the Support the Expedition tab. You can also find a link in this video's description. We really can't wait to share more of the Apparent Winds expedition with you, and thank you so much for following along.